Welcome back in, everyone, to the Lucky Shots podcast. It is week 6 of the Gamday show. Week 5, there's some upsets, some not so great games, some ugly games, and games a little closer than you would have imagined. So before we start, we've got 4 byes this week: Detroit, Houston, the Raiders, and the Titans, all not playing this week. So if you got any of those guys in your fantasy lineup, get them out now. But let's hop into what last week had for us. Week 5 started off the week hot. Looked great, right? Indy wins 12-9 against the Broncos. What an ugly game. A game of field goals, bad offense. I mean, decent looking defense, but when both offenses look so bad, the defenses are going to look good. And how about Denver just, again, not knowing how to call a game? Bad play calling is what lost them the football game. They had the chance to pick up a first down right before the 2-minute warning, run out the clock, kick a field goal, and at most force Indy to have to score a touchdown with less than a minute on the clock. Instead, they try to throw the ball. Russ throws a dumb pass. It gets intercepted. Indy's able to go down, tie the game up. Then Denver has the ball again in overtime. Chance to get it to KJ Hamler, who's just wide open. Literally could toss him the ball and he can walk in. They don't do it. The Colts win with a field goal. Just an ugly game. Both offenses looking tough and not in a good way. So, tough game there. Then we move on to the London game. Did I say so or did I say so? The Giants upset the Green Bay Packers 27-22. Saquon, again, had a huge game, 106 yards and a touchdown. Giants overall, 3 rushing touchdowns. So, not getting a whole lot done through the air, but getting it done on the ground, led by Saquon. So, big game there. What does that mean for Green Bay moving into this week as well? Then you had New England. They were on like their 3rd string quarterback, Bailey Zappi, and they shut out the Detroit Lions 29-0. Kind of a big surprise there. And then Ramondre Stevenson, how about this guy at 175 total yards, really leading the way for that team. No Damian Harris this week, so see if Ramondre Stevenson repeats. And yeah, Detroit's not the most impressive team, but a 29-0 win is pretty decisive, no matter who you're playing. Then how about Jacksonville? They dropped 2 straight now as they lose to the Texans 13-6. Were they hyped up too much? Maybe. I mean, they played pretty well to start the year. Now they're on 2 straight losses, one of those coming to the Texans. And Trevor Lawrence, looks like he's reverting back to his old ways a little bit. 7 turnovers in the last 2 games. Had 5 the week before, 2 this week against Houston. Are they going to bounce back? They really need to make a statement this week to show, hey, those first 2 weeks weren't a fluke. We're still all right. We're still getting better. But ugly loss to the Houston Texans. How about the New York Jets putting up a 40 spot going up against Miami? I said I thought the Jets could win this game. I did not think it would be 40-17 without a whole lot of passing either. Breece Hall had a huge game, 97 rush yards and a touchdown, and then had 100 receiving yards. 100 receiving yards was supplemented by a 90-yard catch, but big game for him. And then this is how it broke down for the whole team. Michael Carter, had 2 touchdowns. Breece Hall had a touchdown. Braxton Berrios had a touchdown. And Russell Wilson had a touchdown. They were all running touchdowns. So imagine if this team can start putting together a passing offense as well. Miami's a not so great defense, but the Jets are going up against the Packers, who were just upset by the Giants. So could be a bit of an upset possibly brewing this week. Then you had Philly and Arizona. This game was a lot closer than anticipated. 20-17, Philly pulls out the win. Is this a testament to maybe the Eagles aren't as good as we thought they were? Or is it a testament to Arizona is actually a little better than we're giving them credit for? Not really sure, but Philly still pulls it out, still stays undefeated, looking pretty good, sitting atop their division. Then you had Baltimore and Cincinnati. This one was closer than what you would have expected, but if you look at the history of these two teams, the games they play, Cincinnati plays pretty well against Baltimore. Baltimore ended up getting the win 19-17. So, I mean, if you looked at the history of it, you would expect it would maybe be a close game because Cincinnati, regardless of how they are playing the other games in their season, they play Baltimore really tough, but Baltimore still pulls it out. Then how about Kansas City only having a 1-point victory over the Raiders? 30-29, Kansas City wins. And the Raiders had a 20-10 halftime lead, but that was negated by Mahomes throwing every single touchdown to Travis Kelce. Again, when in doubt, Kansas City, they've got Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. So it was a very close game. Did not know if the Chiefs were going to be able to pull it out, but they do pull it out and stay atop of that AFC West. Let's take a look at some games that I'm kind of keying in on for this week 6 coming up. We got Jacksonville and Indy. Yeah, it could be a sleeper of a game. Both teams are getting a little rough. But Jacksonville won this game 24-0 in week 2. They have since lost 2 in a row. Indy coming off that win against the Broncos. And this division's wide open, man. You got Tennessee sitting on top at 3-2. Indy in second at 2-1. Jacksonville right behind them at 2-3. And Houston sitting at 1-3-1. None of these teams look all that impressive. Jacksonville has been the most impressive just from where they were last year. And this is going to be a game that I think defines how the rest of the season goes for these two teams. Jacksonville already won earlier this year. Lawrence played really well. They're going to need that kind of game again this week, especially to get right after the last 2 weeks where Lawrence has turned the ball over 7 times and this offense hasn't looked good. So Jacksonville and Indy, sure, it might be a sleeper, but it has pretty big indications for this division that no one really has a stronghold on yet. And then I like the New England versus Cleveland game. Both teams, top rushing offenses. This is going to be a really old school looking football game. Cleveland is first in running offense. New England is 9th. And both defenses aren't very good against the run. You've got New England sitting at 22nd and Cleveland sitting at 28th. So you combine 2 really good rushing offenses against 2 really bad rushing defenses. I think that's a good recipe for Nick Chubb and possibly Kareem Hunt as well and Ramondre Stevenson. I think we're going to see a lot of running in this game. We're going to have to, especially from the Patriots with Bailey Zappi, I believe, will be their starter. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, just running backs run all over the field. And then, I just talked about it a little earlier, how about the New York Jets and Green Bay game? Both teams are 3-2. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year the Jets would be 3-2, might have smacked you. Might have said, you're smoking something. You're a little off there, bud. But they are. And now they're going up against Green Bay. The Jets last week had 5 rushing touchdowns. Green Bay gave up 125 yards on the ground and a touchdown to the Giants, who also had 3 rushing touchdowns. So a team that ran the ball real well last week, a team who just got upset, could, like I said, could be an upset brewing. Don't sleep on the Jets because Green Bay, they went over to London. It was a sleepy game for them. I think that affected them, and that's part of the reason they lost. I also think coming back from there now, they're going to be sleepy again, and it could spell trouble for Green Bay. Now about Minnesota and Miami. Minnesota sitting at 4-1, but 3 of those 4 wins have been by 1 possession, and Miami's without Tua again. I believe without Teddy Bridgewater as well. I think their 3rd string, his name's like Skylar Thompson or something. third string quarterback starting a game is never a good thing, I guess, unless you're the Patriots. But Minnesota looking pretty good, sitting at 4-1. That offense has a great chance of having a huge game against a Miami defense that is not great. Just gave up 40 points to the Jets. Could be a huge game, especially fantasy-wise, for anybody on that team. Then we've got Arizona and Seattle. Arizona performing a little worse than expected. Seattle playing better than expected. And they're both sitting at 3-2, or 2-3, sorry. Arizona just kind of hung tough with Philly. Possibly they continue that momentum. Seattle, they're just an offense that can put up a lot of points because they have to, because their defense doesn't stop anything. I think this is going to be another fun game. As much as, Seattle may not be a great team, they're putting on some great shows so far this season. And in turn, I think we're going to see the best offense out of Arizona that we've seen all season. So this one, I think, is going to be a fun game. And then, of course, Buffalo and Kansas City. That's always a fun game to watch. Two top offenses in the league. Kansas City, it's a tough environment to play in because it's going to be Chiefs with the home field advantage. Buffalo has a great defense, but they're a little banged up in the secondary. And Kansas City, they had trouble with Vegas. So I think a shootout is coming. Just depends on what happens, Is Buffalo going to get those big plays that they got last week, 2 out of Gabe Davis? And are the Chiefs going to have a bit of a sluggish kind of start to this game because they just had a very close one against the Raiders? Might shake the confidence a little bit. But I think that one's going to be fun to watch as well. We're going to see probably the two best quarterbacks in all of football right now squaring off once again. So that's going to be a fun thing to watch, kind of like back in the day when it was Brady and Manning. Brady and Peyton Manning, every time they met up, it was a fun game to watch. So I think this is that new AFC rivalry between quarterbacks. And then Dallas and Philly. Dallas is sitting at 4-1. Cooper Rush, 4-0 so far this season. Philly sitting at 5-0. Just had that close call against the Cardinals. Both really, really tough defenses. Dallas sitting at 7th. Philly sitting at 4th. And it's a battle for the top of the division. Winner will be atop the NFC East after this game. A lot riding on this. Just talked about it with Dylan Corbett on the Lucky Bet show, on his show, that Dallas has a really good defense. Cooper Rush hasn't necessarily been all that fantastic. He hasn't done anything special. The defense is bailing him out. The running backs on that team doing a great job. He hasn't had to do much. I think he's going to have to do something special this week to beat Philly. And Philly, they're going to have a real test offensively going up against a really good defense. But let's hop into the picks for this week. Nice, short, sweet show today. We've got our Week 6 picks. Thursday night football, getting a little rough. I'm sitting at 2-3. Sunday night football, sitting at 4-1. So I'm happy about that. And we gained some ground in Monday night football as we are now 2-4 there. So the Thursday night game, I wouldn't even tune in. I think it's going to be just as bad as the Colts and Broncos game, but we've got Washington and Chicago. Yikes. Taking Washington in this one, not really confident in either team. I just feel like Washington possibly can put up more points than the Bears. I don't think it's going to be a fun game. So hopefully Washington pulls that out. Need to get even 500 for Thursday night football again. Then we've got Baltimore and the Giants. Giants coming off that big win, sitting at 4-1, looking pretty dang good. Baltimore, I think they're 3-2, but I just believe Baltimore overall is a better team. So we're going to take Baltimore there, but could be another upset coming for the Giants. Then Jacksonville and Indy. I think it's a bounce back week for Jacksonville. They've already beat Indy once. That's going to help build their confidence after dropping 2 straight. I think they're going to be all right against Indy this week. Cleveland against New England. That's another toss-up for me, but we're going to go with Cleveland. I believe more in Nick Chubb, I think, than I do Ramondre Stevenson. But again, this is going to be a running back fest. I think it's going to come down to who scores the last touchdown. That's going to be how this game goes. But I'm taking Cleveland there. Cincinnati against New Orleans. This is a tough game too, because how do we perceive the Bengals? Kept it close against Baltimore, but still lost. New Orleans has been the definition of mediocre. So I think we're going to go with Cincinnati there. They've got more opportunity and talent on their offensive side of the ball than New Orleans, I believe. So we'll see. I'm taking Cincy. Tampa Bay versus Pittsburgh. We're taking Tampa Bay. That's a pretty easy one there. San Francisco against Atlanta. We're going San Francisco. It seems like that is the obvious choice, but this could be a trap game. You never know. San Francisco hasn't necessarily blown the doors off anybody. So that's one to keep an eye out on, but we're going with San Francisco. The Jets in Green Bay. Originally, I was like, all right, let's not get cute with it. Let's choose Green Bay. No, we're going to get cute with it. We're going to go with the Jets and the second upset in 2 weeks of Green Bay. Probably going to be wrong. Choosing a team to get upset 2 weeks in a row is dangerous, but we're going to go with it. I have a feeling that the Jets are going to be able to get the job done against Green Bay. Minnesota and Miami. I think Minnesota has this one pretty much handled before it even starts. So we're going with Minnesota there. Panthers and the Rams. This is another one where I might even change it later on, but we're going with the Rams. But I think this could be a sneaky week for the Panthers to also upset. So going with the Rams, might change it to Carolina. Arizona and Seattle. I think Arizona, I just think they overall are a better team. They just haven't really showed it. And Seattle, their defense doesn't stop anything at all. They're like the door that keeps spinning around. We're going to go with Arizona there, but I think that one's going to be a close, fun game to watch. Buffalo and Kansas City, going to go with Buffalo. They've got a better defense, and that's really what it comes down to for me. So going to go with them. Hopefully Kansas City plays a little sleepily like they did last week against the Raiders. Then Dallas and Philly on Sunday night. Again, I think Cooper Rush is going to have to outperform himself if they want to have any chance at winning this game. So we're going with Philly. I'm 4-1 on Sunday night, so I'm pretty confident that this one is going to cash in as well. We're going with Philly to continue being undefeated. And then Denver against the Chargers. Got to go with the Chargers. It's not a huge confidence play right now, but Denver's offense, as long as they have Nathaniel Hackett, it's not going to be great. So we're going with the Chargers for that one. That is it for this week, guys. Hopefully you watched the Lucky Bets podcast right before you watched this one. Recorded that earlier. So that hopefully is up before this one. So you can tune into that one as well. If you haven't watched the fantasy show yet, watch that before Thursday Night Football happens tonight. Make sure you got your lineup where you want it. Tune into the Lucky Bet Show. Make sure that you have all the betting advice for this week before the week kicks off. And then obviously, if you're watching this show, you've watched it. So let's have a sleepy Thursday night with this barn burner of a game, Washington against Chicago, and then hopefully have some fun games to watch on Sunday. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks for joining. We will see you next time.